Nissan has been in the news a lot lately, and unfortunately, it's been for all the wrong reasons. Over the course of the last year or two, Nissan's profits have plunged, and then plunged some more, as sales of the company's vehicles have started trending in the wrong direction. Nissan has also been forced to deal with a slew of ongoing Nissan CVT transmission problems in a variety of the company's vehicles. Those who own Nissans have been forced to pay anywhere from $3,500 to $8,000 on average to fix Nissan CVT transmission problems. This has, in turn, forced Nissan to extend the warranties on many of their cars from 5 years or 60,000 miles to 10 years or 120,000 miles. It remains to be seen whether or not Nissan is going to be able to get this problem under control. If they aren't, it could very well lead to their profits plunging even further than they already have, and it could threaten to put the company into a precarious position as far as their future is concerned. But in the meantime, many Nissan owners are able for building many of the CVT transmissions found in cars all throughout the world. This should illustrate just how committed Nissan has been to CVT despite all the Nissan CVT transmission problems that have popped up over time. Let's talk an introduction of the Nissan CVT. There isn't anything particularly new about CVT technology. Believe it or not, Leonardo da Vinci came up with one of the initial concepts for the technology way back in the late 1400s, and it appeared in some of the earliest automobiles that were invented in the late 1800s. Nissan has also been using CVT technology in its cars for decades now. They first started incorporating CVTs into their vehicles in the early 1990s when they released the 1992 Nissan March that contained the NCVT, which was based on the Fuji Heavy Industries eCVT. They then went on to design their very own CVT in the years that followed and worked them into several of their Japanese models. Nissan didn't get serious about adding CVTs to their US vehicles until the early 2000s, though. The 2003 Nissan Murano, which was released in 2002, was the first Nissan to feature a CVT transmission in the US. It came in the form of the Stronach CVT from Nissan, and it marked a complete change in the way that Nissan would approach transmissions. Within just a few years, Nissan shifted to including CVTs in almost all of the vehicles they released in the US. CVTs were soon found in Nissan Altimas, Nissan Pathfinders, Nissan Rogues, Nissan Sentras, and Nissan Versas. It seemed like such an exciting time for Nissan, but it wouldn't be long before the Nissan CVT transmission problems would start to appear. Beginning of the Nissan CVT transmission problems. When Nissan first started introducing CVT technology into their North American cars in the early 2000s, there was a lot of fanfare that surrounded them. People thought that CVTs could potentially be the transmissions found in all cars at some point in the near future. But it didn't take very long for some people who owned the 2003 Nissan Murano to start to see signs that the CVTs in Nissans might not be all they were cracked up to be. They noticed Nissan CVT transmission problems like difficulty accelerating, shaking and or stuttering during acceleration, transmissions running too hot, transmissions shutting down without warning. Transmission failure was and is still one of the most common. The 2013 Nissan Altima started to notice Nissan CVT transmission problems at around the 53,000 mile mark and found that they cost around $3,100 to fix. It caused many Altima owners to second-guess their decision to buy Nissans and is at least partly to blame for Nissan's current predicament. Third and fourth generation Nissan Pathfinder transmission problems. Nissan CVT transmission problems have become pretty much synonymous with the Nissan Altima at this point, which is why we decided to discuss the Altima first. But the Nissan Pathfinder was actually one of the first Nissans outside of the Murano to have a CVT transmission installed in it way back in 2005 when the first third-generation Nissan Pathfinder was released. And not coincidentally, that year's Pathfinder ended up going down as one of the worst Pathfinder model years for transmissions in the Pathfinder's history. Those who owned a 2005 Nissan Pathfinder had a variety of widespread transmission problems, including coolant leaking into their transmissions and causing transmission failure. These problems started to appear at around the 90,000 mile mark in these Pathfinders and cost right around $3,500 to fix. They also showed up in the 2006 and 2007 Nissan Pathfinders before Nissan appeared to get its act together and reduce the CVT-related issues found in Pathfinders. But they reared their ugly head again when the fourth-generation Nissan Pathfinder was released in the form of the 2014 Nissan Pathfinder. That model Pathfinder would go on to be involved in a class action lawsuit that claimed the Pathfinder would shake very violently when it was driven between 15 and 30 miles per hour in some instances. It was a problem that appeared in some 2014 Pathfinders as soon as the 32,000-mile mark and cost $4,000 to fix on average. First and second generation Nissan Rogue transmission problems. First released in 2007, the Nissan Rogue has, somewhat surprisingly, turned into one of the most popular Nissan models ever. When in 14 Rogue starting to show signs of trouble in many cases at around the 80,000-mile mark and forcing Rogue owners to endure average repair bills in the $3,500 range. There haven't been as many Nissan CVT transmission problems reported with Rogues in more recent years, but all of this has scared off some people who might normally consider buying a Rogue. 6th generation Nissan Sentra transmission problems. The Nissan Sentra is one of the longest-running models in the Nissan lineup. It was first released way back in the early 1980s, and it continues to be a linchpin for the Nissan name. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't without its fair share of Nissan CVT transmission problems. When the 6th generation Nissan Sentra was put out in 2013, many people who bought it reported problems like revving and jerking and total CVT transmission failure. It often struck at around the 80,000-mile mark and cost about $3,500 to fix. The 2013 and 2014 Nissan Sentras, in particular, seemed to give drivers the most fits as far as the Nissan CVT transmission problems go. First and second generation Nissan Versa transmission problems. There was one very prominent problem with first-generation Nissan Versas released between 2007 and 2011 that earned Nissan a lot of negative press. They came equipped with Takata airbags that were later found to be defective. Nissan was forced to recall these vehicles in May 2016 and July 2017 to replace the airbags that were in them. But this wasn't the only problem that portrayed Nissan in a negative light. While the company was dealing with its airbag problem in Versas, they also had to deal with transmission problems in many first-generation Versas. Owners of the original 2008 Versa, for instance, started reporting Nissan CVT transmission problems that appeared at around the 120,000-mile mark and cost $3,700 on average to fix. And those problems only seemed to get worse once the second-generation Nissan CVT transmission problems that they've heard so much about. If you want to get rid of a Nissan that has CVT transmission problems and get your hands on something new, Cash Cars buyer will gladly take your Nissan off your hands and give you cash for it. It'll allow you to go out and buy something that's safer, more reliable, and less expensive than the Nissan you're driving now. Contact us today to obtain a quote for your car.